After curtain theater stage door, promise on the playbill. The theater after the curtain falls keeps its breath the way exhausted people do. Quiet, efficient, not yet ready to be a person again. The applause dissolves into coats and rideshare codes. The orchestra packs away its arguments, and the stage lights cool from violence back to weather. I slipped through the lobby while the last donors collected their compliments and took the service corridor toward the stage door with my phone face down in my palm like a coin I wasn't ready to spend. Left pocket, the pocket I use for things that are supposed to make it home. The metal door clicked shut behind me, and the building remembered how to be honest. Back home, Owen had said, "Can we talk tomorrow?" in the voice that means please stay now. Our couch is good at auditions. Given enough time, it makes a courtroom of anything. I left before either of us picked a role we'd hate ourselves for. On the stairs, my screen lit with a message from Adrian in my contacts, in the way I label hazards to make them smaller. Stage door alley, just talk. Roofs forgive nobody in daylight, back alleys pretend they will. I'm Callum. By day I fix other people's paragraphs. By night I try not to turn my own into weapons. Owen and I have a code that works when we remember it. T means come here, you awake. Means I'm scared. Tomorrow means not yet, but don't go far. Adrian drifted back into orbit 2 months ago wearing a jacket the color of burned stage directions and a laugh that sounded like a glass agreeing to be set down gently. He didn't ask for anything. That was how I started bringing him everything. The alley behind the theater smelled like rain that had given up, and paint, and the metal tang of confetti swept into corners. Someone had braced the stage door open with a sandbag. Warm air leaked out, carrying sweat, powder, adrenaline, and apology. A single bulb by the loading dock pretended to be the moon. Adrian stood under it, collar open, the shadow of curtains still on his cheekbones. A program rolled into a baton in his hand. "You came," he said, "because grown men rely on the same 3 words when the verbs get dangerous." "I came to return something," I said. "My jacket, your nerve." He smiled without showing teeth, which is how he says I will behave until you give me a better idea. "Your name," I said. "It's been on my mouth too long for its own health." A tech pushed a rack of costumes past us without asking what our faces were doing. Somewhere a trumpet sighed into its case. Adrian lifted the rolled program, tapped it against his palm, unrolled it, and pointed to the blank half of the back page, advertising that hadn't happened yet. He produced a fountain pen from inside his jacket as if the thing had been waiting for this exact sentence. 3 words, he said. "Why are you here?" 3 words is cruel, I said. "That's why they work." He held the pen until I took it. The stage hates speeches when there isn't an audience. I wrote proud at breakfast. Beneath it, smaller like a fuse that may or may not be necessary, I wrote touch before arguing. He read the words and nodded once, careful, a craftsman accepting a measurement. He took the program, folded it in half, slid it into his inner pocket, and let his hand stay there a beat longer than the city would sanction. "Does he know you slipped out?" he asked, not weaponizing the pronoun because he's better at precision than kindness. "He knows the apartment is quiet," I said, which was honest enough to be cruel. A voice inside the door called 5 minutes to lock, which meant forever in stage time. We stepped into the gloom just beyond the threshold, the better to pretend the sidewalk wasn't an accomplice. Heat pooled in the seam where inside met out. Adrian leaned his shoulder against the brick, and I did too, mirroring, not touching, heat arriving like a question that knows the answer. "You always could pick a set," he said. He took the pen back and slid it behind his ear, a single bright stroke against dark hair. "I booked a rehearsal room, glass roof, bad sofa. You can tell me no on a better chair." You always book decency like a refundable ticket, I said. Only when the exchange rate is high, he said. His knuckles hovered near my lapel, almost straightening it, the way hands ask permission when they're trying to be better than their appetites. We looked at each other the way men look when decision becomes a muscle, attentive, hungry, unwilling to call it that. He moved a half-inch closer and the world rearranged accordingly. His breath reached my mouth before he did and then stopped, a careful courtesy that felt like cruelty. He didn't kiss me. He traced the top edge of my lower lip with his thumb. The night did us the favor of leaning in. I shouldn't, I said into his not yet. I didn't step back. Of course you shouldn't, he said, and finally let his mouth touch mine. It was the kind of kiss that learns, the kind that starts as punctuation and becomes grammar. His lips were warm and exact. He tasted like peppermint and a small complaint he was willing to withdraw. My hand found the back of his neck and his skin answered, that quick, honest shiver that men make when the body surrenders a minor province and calls it diplomacy. He made the sound behind his teeth that I've never liked in myself and trusted in him anyway. My fingers slid under his jacket and learned the heat along his ribs, mapping a familiarity I'd pretended was academic. He moved with the competence of a man who has rehearsed restraint and grown bored of calling that virtue. We didn't rush. We let breath organized by heat decide the tempo. His mouth found the line under my jaw, mine found the place behind his ear where regret loses its vocabulary. When his palm slid under my shirt and settled flat on my chest, he paused long enough to listen, an unearned courtesy, and then pressed just enough to remind me that pressure is a language too. The alley pretended to be a theater that had turned off its microphone. It was kind of it. We already cheated, he said when we came up for air, his mouth a fraction from mine because air was a union and had contract rights. We cheated when we started telling each other the truth before we told it at home. And yet, I said, useless, and kissed that small, honest part of his lip again, because I believed myself least when I was most accurate. The door behind us shuddered toward lock. He took my wrist and led me down the corridor to the rehearsal room, a box with a skylight and a piano that looked like it had kept better secrets than anyone in it. The sofa had no right to its own confidence. He set the program on the music stand and the pen beside it, both object and alibi. We stood at a precisely indecent distance and let hunger write its brief. He touched me with attention, not performance. I answered the same way. When he backed me toward the sofa, he did it as if choreography were the opposite of cruelty. We landed unhurried. His mouth opened mine again, and we learned each other's breath until the room understood that men were preserving the machinery of a morning they might still want. His hand slid under my waistband and rested there, not conquest, consent. I closed my fingers around him with care that felt like honesty. We stayed like that for a handful of slow seconds that made a case for minor miracles. He whispered my name like it had a corridor and he had decided to walk it. We finished quiet because walls prefer prose. His forehead met mine while heat remembered itself back into weather. For a moment I wanted to tell the room I loved him. I did not. We both deserved better verbs. He stood first and buttoned his jacket carefully, not to fix but to decide. He picked up the program, set it on the stand again, folded it once more like he was compressing a lesson he intended to keep arguing with. He looked at me with a mouth that had stopped being cruel to itself. "You'll go home," he said. "It wasn't a dare, it was inventory." "I'll go home," I said. "I want to want what I promised." "Accurate," he said. He retrieved the pen, capped it, slid it behind his ear. "Text me a weather report in the morning. Tell me if the kettle beat the reasons." "It usually does," I said, "when we let it." We locked the rehearsal room and returned the way we came, past the piano, past the ghost of applause clinging to the fly system, back out into air that had finished its shift and was ready to stop pretending. He didn't touch me when we reached the alley. He watched me touch the door instead. He smiled the kind of smile men use when they know the ending and still want to hear the last line. The city didn't punish me on the walk home. The crosswalk gave me time and I took it. The kitchen light made it square on the tile. The fridge hummed the way machines hum when they agree to believe you. Owen sat on the floor with his back against the door, sleeves pushed up, one ankle across the other, the posture manuals use when they draw people who are about to fix things. He didn't ask where I'd been. He turned his head slightly toward the space beside him. I sat there. "Do you want to be asked?" he said, voice steady, not performing mercy, offering it. "Please," I said, because prompts are the scaffolding of my better self. "Are you lonely?" he asked. "Some nights," I said. "Not here. Not when you ask first. Not when the kettle outruns the reasons." I took his wrist and placed his hand on my forearm the way he does when he needs to make sure I'm not inventing weather. His thumb traced once and believed me. "I feel useful," he said. "I want to be wanted before I'm useful." "Tonight's procedure," I said. "Touch first, argue second, report later." The kettle clicked like a postage stamp in a country that still believes in mail. We poured water over mint and called it dinner because names are cheaper than regret. I took the program page from my pocket and pinned it under the lemon-shaped magnet on the fridge so Proud at Breakfast faced the room. Owen read it and his mouth did the smaller, braver thing. He stood, picked up the dry erase marker from the cup by the fridge and wrote beneath the lemon, "Tomorrow, keep the torque." He didn't grin. He let the sentence take the room's temperature and nodded when it didn't flinch. We made a rule that wasn't noble. When prosecution tried to wear a bathrobe, one of us would say stage door and the other would put the kettle on while the first put his hands where history could find them. We agreed to 5 words when 5 were enough. We agreed to stop at the shoulder, not the ditch. We agreed to try to want what we promised. When we didn't, we wrote 3 words on small paper and told the room we would fail differently. Days did what days do when you're trying to be an amateur human with professional consistency. The program page in my pocket learned the shape of my left hand. Paper learns its carriers. On the late bus, I wrote messages to no one that began "I didn't ask," because I thought that counted as kindness and ended "May your breakfast go right." I didn't send them. The not sending felt like a skill borrowed from soundproof curtains and honest bulbs. A week later, when afternoon tried to be a test, I walked by the stage door again and bought nothing. I left a bottle of water on the loading dock with a note, "For whoever is waiting for a sister." The tech with the pallet jack nodded like a bridge that has held and will hold again. On the way home, I slipped a blank playbill insert into my pocket and wrote "Turn" toward your name across the clean side. I did not light anything. That night we ate toast like it had been newly invented. We failed and then failed differently and failed in ways that didn't require anyone to stand under work lights pretending to know which rope would save them. The room did not demand a verdict. The morning remembered its job. And when we said tomorrow out loud, it meant only what we let it mean.